We all love our family, that's the truth. But sometimes in marriage, it feels like we have to make a difficult or even impossible decision to choose between our family of birth, our parents, our siblings, our extended family, and our spouse, the chosen life partner. And this can be a really difficult decision. It can be a really difficult position to be put in. So today we're going to talk about how you can create wonderful, healthy, respectful boundaries where both your partner and your family feels loved, respected, and honored. Let's get into it today on the Strength of Seduction podcast. Hey, Strength of Seduction family. This is Daniel, and if you're listening to this episode, there's a good chance that you're already a Strength of Seduction customer. The reality is, most people purchased our Strength of Seduction workouts back during the pandemic because they were really fun to do in the house and they looked exciting, and you wanted to build intimacy with your partner. You wanted to build connection with your partner. But over the past few years, we've realized that just doing the workouts is really fun, it's engaging, and it's interesting, but it's not really what we were trying to get at with our programming. What we intended to do is to create something that would help you to transform your life and your marriage. And it's taken us a few years to figure out what exactly that means. And we didn't do it alone. We did it by talking to you. Over the past few years, we've talked to over 20,000 couples, Black couples in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, who've gone through it all, who've seen the ups and downs of life, who've gone through all the struggles, who've actually achieved happiness. And what we learned was really shocking. We learned that there are 4 key elements that all relationships must have strong. They must have on lock in order to make that relationship thrive. And we took those 4 elements and we designed a program around those elements to help support Black couples in a way we've just never seen done before. And what we came up with was called Love and Legacy. And it's the first and only program in the world created from speaking privately with thousands of couples just like us about the biggest challenges in our life and relationship. And it's actually a proven system designed to help Black couples upgrade our life and our marriage. Now, this is not open to the public yet. If you're listening to this, like I said, you're most likely already a member of our community. And that's why we'd like to tell you about it first. You can apply and you can learn more at strengthofseduction.com/legacy. This is a private page. And I look forward to hearing from you because the reality is there isn't a lot of talk about what makes our marriages work, what makes our marriages thrive. What I've seen when I'm doing my research is that there's still a big stereotype that our marriages don't last, they don't work, that they're non-existent. And that's certainly not the case. In the Love and Legacy community, we have members who've been married for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're still going strong. And yet they're still interested in learning more and digging deeper and showing up better as partners and individuals. So if that's you, go ahead and check us out, strengthofseduction.com/legacy to learn more about this new program that we're launching. And enjoy today's episode. This is the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build intimacy, love, and connection in their relationship. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. My friends, welcome back to another episode of the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build love, intimacy, and connection in their marriage. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. Now, if you're new here, you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for updates. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform like Apple or Spotify, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. We have a very important episode for you today on dealing with the dynamics of your extended family, your parents, your siblings, and how that relates to your chosen life partner, your soulmate, your spouse, your lover, and how you can balance those two and respect both of those while maintaining your own sanity. This is a very important topic that many people need to talk about, need to hear about, but maybe don't have a place to even think about. So we're going to get into it, but before we dive in, I want to remind you that there's a very special opportunity for you. Strength of Seduction is looking for Black married couples who are ready to grow. And when I say grow, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually together. Love and Legacy is our breakthrough program specifically designed for Black couples who want to kill the idea of divorce forever by building stronger communication, better health, deeper intimacy, and more money in their family. And if that's you, and if you want to see if you're a good fit for this program, I highly encourage you to go to strengthofseduction.com seduction.com/apply. There's a short little video to watch to learn more about this program and to see if you're a good fit, because essentially this is a limited edition program. It's a private program. We don't offer it to the public. It's just for the listeners of this podcast and the members of our community. And if this is something that you're looking to do with your life and your family, then it could be an incredible opportunity to change the trajectory of your family history and your personal life forever. Strengthofseduction.com/apply is where you go to learn more. Now today, let's dive in. So when it comes to your marriage, navigating the balance between your family that you were born with, your parents, your siblings who become the in-laws, and of course your chosen partner, your spouse, can become very challenging over time, because it's not just you who are trying to balance your own family relationship with your marriage, but it's also you trying to navigate with your new in-laws who are the parents of your spouse and the family of your spouse. And it can become very sticky at times, because all of us are raised differently. All of us grow up in different family dynamics. All of us have different expectations about what family life should be based on how we were raised. And I think that's normal. I don't think any two people come together with exactly the same circumstances. I can say personally from my experience that my upbringing was radically different than my wife's, and that can cause a lot of different stress points. And it's understandable. I think one of the most important things is if you never got premarital counseling, and a lot of times in premarital counseling, they don't really even cover this, you have to examine the relationship that you have with your parents and the relationship that you want to have with your in-laws as a serious point of communication with your spouse going into your marriage or when you're already married. This can cause so much discord between the two of you that the relationship with your extended family can become a problem in your own relationship. And that shouldn't be the case. So let's give some specific examples. For instance, you might have two partners who grow up in just radically different cultures. It could be a different religion. It could be different culture around the world. It could just be different family traditions within the same general culture. Around holidays, for instance, maybe you have one person from a culture with a large extended family, and those types of gatherings are the norm. But you, for instance, are someone who didn't grow up in a big family. Maybe you were an only child, and so you're used to smaller, more immediate family holidays. And those can become clashes. Just like, for instance, if you're planning a wedding together and one partner wants a huge family gathering of 200 or 300 people, and you'd rather it just be 4 or 5 small people, 10 people, and call it a day. This is actually something that Sarah and I both agreed on. We wanted a very small wedding. And so we were able to come to terms on that, and it was really nice. But I've seen many situations where partners can't even agree on what type of wedding to have. And so it creates differences in expectations based on how you were raised. I guess when we talk about culture, it's not just about language or it's not just about race or something. It's more about culture of upbringing. And a lot of times that can create discord. Another example would be financial pressures or just caring for family pressures. So there are situations where you might need to financially support either your parents or your in-laws, or you might have to house them, your parents or your in-laws. I know that for a short period of time, my dad was living at our house, and that can cause issues. Or for instance, if your parents need support buying a house or something like that, there are just different opportunities to cause discord in your primary relationship when there is external opinion from other relationships. Or oftentimes you'll see scenarios where the parents on either side will have a strong opinion about what you should do in your relationship. And these are all just examples of where external voices, external forces can cause undue pressure on your core relationship. And so the key here, and I can speak from my own personal experience, but I can also speak from the research that we've done with about 20,000 beautiful Black families now. And what we found is that one of the core things that couples need to do is to set boundaries, set specific boundaries and expectations on how they're going to interact with their in-laws, especially if it's becoming an issue. So one example could be just setting limits on how often in-laws can come and visit the home, especially if you now have kids, and obviously the grandparents are very excited, they want to be involved, but coming together as a couple and just talking about the fact that, hey, we want to limit the number of unannounced visits and show how you can create boundaries for your parents, basically, or for your spouse's parents. And it might just be first a conversation that starts between you as the couple and then is communicated to your in-laws, communicated to your family, and done in a respectful way. And so, for instance, if you sit down with your spouse and you come to a decision that, hey, we don't want any unannounced visits, we'd like to plan these out so that we're prepared, it can come off very respectfully to your parents or your in-laws in a way similar to saying, hey guys, we really love spending time with you. We really love the opportunity for you to play the role of grandparents, and that's something that we enjoy, but we just feel like we need more time to prepare when people come over. The house is messy. Sometimes we're in the middle of doing things. Sometimes we're on our way out the door, and we just don't always have the bandwidth to take an unexpected visit. So just give us a heads up the day before when you want to come. Give us X amount of warning. And there's lots of reasons why you'd want to have an announcement before someone comes over. It's not even just your parents. When you order something on Amazon or you order a pizza, even these days, you can track when that thing's going to be at your house, and these are things that you want. So if you don't always want your in-laws over there, at least you want to know when they're coming. But even if you do want them over, you want to be able to have some expectation of when that's going to happen. Because, yeah, if you are dealing with kids who are in and out of school, in and out of sports, and moving all around, if you are coming to and from work, if you are just doing things that you need to keep your household running, it's not appropriate sometimes for another person to interject in that, even if you love them, even if you actually love hanging out with your parents or your in-laws. So this is a respectful way where you can come together with your spouse and you can set those expectations internally and then communicate them externally. And listen, there are lots of different ways to do this. You got to find your own particular way. But when you are talking to your parents, for instance, your family, one of the best ways that you can do this to diffuse tension is by using I statements. When you're talking to your parents, for instance, don't throw your partner under the bus by saying, oh, he or she wants this. It should be more of a, I want this, or we have agreed this, because then you can't be separated from that decision. And it becomes a joint and a united front. And I think that's something really to draw attention to here. When one spouse feels undermined by their in-laws during family gatherings, both spouses have to address the issue together with the in-laws to make sure it doesn't happen again. If you're, for instance, from a guy's perspective, a lot of times the dynamic with this is the man's mother will be sizing up the wife. This is not always how it goes, but this is just like a stereotypical dynamic between mothers and their sons and then the wife. And so if you have a mother who is, for instance, being hypercritical of a wife or stepping over a wife or trying to show them up or doing things that just clearly makes the wife uncomfortable, then it has to come together as a united front of, hey, I feel like this, we feel like this. Not my wife feels like that, because then it creates a vector of attack against your wife. And same thing with the shoe on the other foot with the husband. If you are the wife, and there are a lot of times a dynamic where the father of the bride is constantly sizing up the man and trying to test him and trying to play that role of a protective father, the wife has to be able to come to you on a united front and say, hey, Dad, this is how we are feeling. This is what we think. This is how I feel, to protect the husband in that situation from becoming a vector of attack. And of course, you don't have to take sides in these things, but I will say this. For the health of your marriage, it's already been decided that you've chosen your spouse. There are a lot of us who grow up and we worship our parents in some ways, especially I can speak from a guy's perspective. There are a lot of men out there who never stop worshiping their mom. And I think that's a good thing. I think that you always want to have a love and respect for your mom, and you want to have a mother's love is never going to be replaced by a spouse, but it shouldn't be. However, they're not interchangeable. And there comes a point where you grow through maturity away from your core family, from your birth family, and you have to make your own new family. And if there's an issue inside of your marriage, you need to be siding with your partner. You need to be siding with your spouse. That is really the idea of creating a united front. And sometimes that means you're going to piss your in-laws off on either side. You're going to piss them off. And you have to be okay with that. Now, there's a way to do things respectfully, and there's a way to do things with love. And ultimately, when you communicate your needs, you have to be able to communicate in a way where you're still showing compassion, but you are detached from however the outcome is outside of your respectful requests. Because ultimately, you can't control someone's feelings, and you really can't play both sides of the fence. You can be loving and respectful and honorable to your family and to your in-laws, but the damage that you'll cause within your relationship if you side with your birth family is going to be palpable. It's going to be noticeable. And over time, it will cause destruction. Because ultimately, the family that you choose is going to be the family that becomes your legacy, right? And so this is something that I wanted to leave you guys with. It's really about having that communication within your intimate relationship and communicating that as a united front. And listen, there are many ways to successfully navigate this. One of the things you can do, for instance, let's talk about the holiday example, is when you have big holidays coming up, you can include your family in that. You can include a certain amount of time that your in-laws will stay over and create boundaries on when that starts and when that stops. You can create that space for them, and then you can clearly mark when that space is over. Or for instance, if you want to create specific child-related activities within your family. So whether that's inviting them to sports games or school events, those things are all scheduled and planned. So there's like a clear in and a clear out. I think what happens a lot of times with in-laws is that there's no clear boundary between where the marriage starts and where the family relationship starts and stops. And that can cause ambiguity on where loyalty lies. It can cause ambiguity on who has say in the marriage. And to be clear, the only two people who have say in the marriage are you and your partner. And so you don't even want to invite outside opinion. This is one thing that I've learned as I've been married for a long time now. And I will definitely speak to my parents about challenges that I'm having, but I won't get specific about really the issues I'm having in my marriage because it's just not really that important for them to weigh in. I will talk to them about how my life is going, and they will have an idea of what's going on with me, but they're not my therapist, okay? They're not my relationship counselor. And the opinion that they're going to give oftentimes is going to be biased towards me, which it should be, I guess. I'm their son. But at the same time, that's not helpful to me. And also it can pollute the relationship that my parents have with my wife, and vice versa. It can pollute the relationship that my wife has with my parents. I've already seen that happen before. And it's not beneficial. So you have to think before you speak. You might be friends with your parents, especially as you get older, but there are certain things that you want to keep outside of that relationship. Just think about it like this. If one of your parents has ever talked bad to you about the other parent, or tried to have a conversation with you about the relationship with your mom or your dad, if one of your parents has tried to have a counseling session with you about your other parent, how has that felt? Have you been able to offer objective opinions, really? Have you been able to, has that conversation helped your relationship with both of your parents? No, it hasn't. It just creates internal chaos at best and external chaos at worst. It never really goes well. So it's the same thing when it applies to your relationship in your marriage. Keep that part to your chest for communication within the relationship and with your counselor or with your coach, and set new traditions where you can come together and, for instance, maybe you have a monthly dinner with your in-laws, with your parents, that allows them to interact with you, that allows them to see their grandkids. It can be more than that, but just create something that's intentional, that intentionally involves them and includes them without making them feel like their relationship bleeds into your marriage. And that is a good way to create healthy boundaries while still respecting both parties. So I hope that's useful for you today. If you have any thoughts or comments or things that you've done in your marriage to help create that boundary, I'd love to hear from you. You can just email me at daniel@strengthofseduction.com. That is it for the Strength of Seduction podcast today, my friends. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you love listening to us on, and leave a review on Apple or Spotify. Every review counts. And of course, if you want to learn more about our transformational coaching program for Black married couples who want to kill the idea of divorce, who want to grow together spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and who want to do it all with love, passion, and fun, of course, go to strengthofseduction.com/apply to learn more about Love and Legacy, our signature coaching program for Black married couples. Now, as I always say, love fiercely, communicate openly, and always find your way back to each other. This is Daniel. I'll catch you next time on the Strength of Seduction podcast. Peace.